there's a lot to consider with how wrong I was. Um, Obviously, senile old man, I could not see it coming. But the rest I underestimated. I mostly expected Trump, and that was my real mistake. I expected him to do a fair bit of harm to the deep state and a fair bit of harm to the vassals to try and preserve America. Instead, it just is so harmful to the lies of the deep state that is accelerating America's downfall, and so harmful to the vassals that is going to eventually help kick in some survival instinct and get them to try and fight back at least a little bit, especially because he keeps bowing down to those that fight back while getting away laughing with those that do. In typical bully fashion, you fight back against him and he stops. He is the great accelerator. Truly. I was certain of the downfall. I was certain that Ukraine would play a bigger part as well. And in the end, for now, Ukraine has gone back on the backbench. It's back. It's not doing anything much right now. For now, it could change. It can very much change yet. Russia can get more aggressive. Russia can do more. And what I find, I'm not even sure if I should say shocking, but what I find impressive now is that I don't think my predictions were wrong in the general trend, because the general trend lasts since the 70s. There's not that much that can change now. The dynamics are far too deep. The dollar needs forever more investments. The Russians will increasingly fight for their survival. The Chinese will increasingly get richer while we all get destroyed by the American system. But Trump is truly the accelerator in every way possible. In just a year, he has destroyed so much of the deep state's lies, not by bringing it out to light, but at the very least by just openly saying what was hidden. There's poison in the cup while the man is screaming that the cup is full of poison and you're fools for drinking it. He's openly advocating for a crushingly powerful America that attacks everyone, which of course is going to make everyone look at them as enemies. He's killing off the deep state's lies. And for most of it, he has no idea what he's doing. He's literally the fat imbecile that just destroys everything. It's Hodor president. That's what this is. It's Hodor president. But it works. We all need the American empire to disappear. It's paramount that it disappears so that we can move on from this horrendous self-destruction that it brings up. Well, it's disappearing. It is disappearing. I feel like I've ranted a very long time. I don't think I was wrong on my core predictions. I just think the timing was horrendously wrong. But because things have accelerated so hard, there's a few things to consider as to what can happen now. The first big observation I have to make: the deep state is obviously much weaker than I thought it was. It is not as if I felt like it was as strong as it was in the 60s or something like that, obviously. But I had a general sense that it was still potent. Instead, what I've seen of its attitude to Trump is essentially like trying to get a small child to come to the dinner table. It feels like they're very slowly trying to get him to go their way, and that's it. The fact as well that the deep state as an objective alliance has completely lost the Jews, and that they're outright working against the interests of the American empire, with nobody being able to hold them back anymore. All of that is very indicative that, politically speaking, as an entity supposed to unify different groups in one direction, the deep state is all but dead. There's so many little signs, if only the fact that you see tons of former CIA people complaining about the Jews doing it wrong and harming the American empire, rightfully, by the way. But at the end of the day, if they are unable to get people to walk their way, That is not because they have lost their potency. Technically, the weapons at the disposal of the American agencies are stronger than ever. But it's simply because there no longer is a point to almost anything they do. It's all pointless, and so nobody really wants to push for anything. I don't think I was wrong when I said that Trump was essentially sacrificial, that they let him be president with the goal that he would fail, he would be blamed for everything that was about to blow up during his presidency, AI bubble and the like, and ultimately his goal was to die. It was to see his movement be disappointed with him, and it was to see everything fall apart under his presidency so that they could blame him and hopefully get rid of him in the MAGA movement. But the amount of destruction he brings, and the fact that the deep state can neither stop him from doing this, nor influence things well enough, whatever they imagined they would get back as an American empire after Trump, cleaned of Trump, it's going to feel like a hollowed out corpse. They can't control him, they can't stop him from doing insane stuff, and they also cannot fix what he's done. If they had any kind of sizable political power left, by now we should have seen it. However, that does not mean that the deep state is dead and we've won or anything. No, it's worse. The deep state has held control over the American empire for 7 decades now, ever since 1953. And now we're going to see the moment of chaos that follows the downfall of a very long-standing political system. And we even have the perfect storm for it, courtesy of the Jews and Trump. I remember that there was this diplomat whose name I forgot, who worked at the Foreign Office in Britain in, I believe it was May 1914. And he said, "Ever since I've been here at the Foreign Office, I haven't seen such calm waters." Yes? Nobody wants to talk anymore. Everybody prepares for war. The fact that I see what I can only perceive as extreme political weakness from the deep state and extreme political strength from Jews that are insane. Israel will die from the Iran war. The United States empire will die from the Iran war. This is insanity, and yet nobody can stop them. The fact that there doesn't seem to be any political force that is capable of moving against those that would destroy the American empire. The fact that we're essentially seeing a mad king at the head of the country and no one can really stop it. And it's not like the Democrats are seeing some kind of political renewal. I see nothing on the left that seems even remotely capable of appealing with anything new. It's just, hey, let's go back to Obama, Biden. Let's just keep going forever. There's nothing new, there's no movement, there's no political force that can actually apply strength to the American state right now. It really reminds me of that sentence. I haven't seen such calm waters. Well, I have not seen such political weakness at the head of the US to defend the interests of the American empire in forever. Around mid-September-ish, probably they'll scrounge up something, maybe it'll be a little delayed, but even then it won't last all the way to the midterms. But around mid-September, we should see the end of the strategic petroleum reserves. When this will happen, it will become impossible to hide the price of oil and the consequences on the economy, which means it will blow up right in the middle of the midterms campaign. Trump already knows that when the Democrats will win the midterms, they will be in a position to impeach him, and he thinks that they'll do it. This is a period of unthinkable chaos. We could almost call it quantic. Almost everything will be able to happen between the moment where it's obvious that we no longer have the oil we need and the moment where the Democrats are in a position to impeach Trump. I don't even know which one to predict because almost any of them can happen, but let's just take them in order. Trump can decide that the Jews have screwed him on the Iran war and lied to him, and he abandons them. Then he'll be in the same position as Kennedy was back in '63 when everyone had abandoned him. The MAGA movement is dead. The rest of the deep state absolutely hate Trump. If he loses the Jews, he loses his last supporters. Getting killed like Kennedy is very unlikely. Very, very unlikely. I'd say there's a 5% chance and a 95% chance nothing happens. But it is non-zero. And he's got a lot of people that want him dead. You could even see some funny things. Some troon could murder Trump, and the Jews would explain that this is some Chinese ploy to use the far left to take over America. You could see some troon kill Trump, and the CIA would explain that it's the Jews that are trying to take over America. You could see the CIA and the Jews use some troon to kill Trump and then impose some totalitarian government where they would have absolute control and they would put someone to be the guardian of the interest of the American people in this time of emergency, say Ted Cruz. Everything can happen. At the same time, you could see the Jews convince him that the only way to save his presidency is to finish the job and to crush Iran, and that the only way is a nuke. You could see a case where the Democrats don't impeach him, and somehow they find some kind of rotten deal to keep trucking with Trump as president, and he keeps destroying everything, and everybody blames him, hoping to not take over, hoping to not become the man responsible. I know it sounds far-fetched, but we have not seen a period of extreme pressure like the one we're about to see this winter since possibly the early Cold War. What we're about to see is more extreme than what we have seen in our entire lives. There's a senile, mad king at the head of the US who is being controlled by a bunch of Jews who no longer has the safeguards that typically accompany his position, who thinks that his political enemies are coming for him, at the same time that we're about to face an extreme economic crisis that will trigger multiple unsurvivable, unsustainable financial crises. And even though I'm sure they want to offload all the damage to the rest of the empire as much as they can, bluntly put, pretty much everyone is spent. They'll bear the brunt of that pressure, and they'll bear it with every crisis coming down almost all at once, one after the other, between September and February next year. We're going to see a level of pressure that will be insane compared to what we've seen in our entire lives. Almost anything can happen. The most likely scenario is still that nothing happens, though. That Trump peters out, nobody kills him, they just lazily pretend that whatever problems show up is not their problem but Trump's problems, and they hope that he keeps getting loaded with every single mistake until the end. That's the most likely scenario and the best. Almost any other scenario, any violent movement would take us off the direct decay path and into the explosive path, the World War III path. These 6 months from September to next February are probably going to define a lot of what will be happening for the rest of the century. What will happen in those 6 months will not just define the rest of the century, it will also set the political tone for the next decade. There are decades where nothing happens, and soon We'll enter the weeks where decades happen.